Hi, welcome to the Radical Self-Love Video Summit. My name is Lillian Ben Ruby and I'm your host. Today we have Marilyn Gordon, who is a hypnotherapist, teacher, healer, and author from Oakland, California. She is the director for the Center of Hypnotherapy Certification and the author of the book, Extraordinary Healing, Transforming Your Consciousness, Your Energy System, and Your Life. Marilyn Gordon can be contacted at hypnotherapycenter.com or at 1-800-836-0477. Please let's welcome lovely Marilyn Gordon. So hi, Marilyn.
Hi, Lillian. Nice to be here with you.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored. And great. I thought I would start by just introducing the summit a little bit. So, the purpose of the summit for me and hopefully for the listeners is really to get an inside look at what's involved in creating a really healthy, strong, loving, caring relationship with ourselves. And that relationship impacts our worlds, our own individual worlds, as well as the world at large. And I chose you as an expert on this summit because I was really impressed by your website. I was really impressed by your articles and also very impressed by talking with you. Listening to you talk, I just sort of feel that you are the queen of self-love and healing, and I feel like you've really earned your crown by everything that I've heard and read. And I would really love for you to be able to talk about what it means to be in self-love, what it means to really have a great relationship with ourselves.
It's a very big, important topic.
Okay.
Because so many of us are programmed not to love ourselves.
Yes.
We're told, can you hear me okay, by the way?
Perfectly.
Okay, excellent. We're told, first of all, not to cherish ourselves, to cherish other people or to let other people love us.
Yes.
But to love ourselves would be an ego trip or a narcissistic trip, but it's not at all when we really come to understand what it is. But we're given so many ways not to love ourselves. We're told that we're not any good or we're not good at this, and we compete. We have a very competitive society.
Yes.
And right now in America, we're going through the election time, which is total competition. Mm-hmm. And so, everybody bashing everybody else. It's really hard. The whole topic of self-love becomes very difficult. But it's really important that we go beyond this and find out why should we love ourselves and how can we love ourselves and what's the purpose of it. Mm-hmm. What's the purpose of it and what does it mean for our lives? Even the Buddhists say that you should, and there's a big should there, not do self-cherishing, which means don't pay too much attention to yourself above others.
Yes.
Well, even that we have to think about because there's a whole different way of looking at it. And that's what I'd like to talk about today as we go through our talk.
That would be lovely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, perhaps there was an old paradigm in the past that it was either or, that you could, only love yourself or you could only love others. Whereas I think we're moving into a different kind of paradigm, a different kind of consciousness that says we can do both, that we do not have to do one at the expense of the other.
Well, it's very important, even when you go on an airplane, put your apparatus on first. Yes. Before you put on anybody else's, because you have to breathe to do that. Yes. If you want to love other people, you have to have love to do that.
Yes.
So you start with the love that's within you. Yes. And then you can spread it out to others. But if you come with an empty account, mm-hmm. with a dryness inside yourself, that there isn't enough love to spread around. Okay. But there is enough love once you tap into the source of it. Okay. And the source of it is deeply spiritual.
Yes.
It's the connection with the divine. Okay. It really is that. And the point of this is that we are connected with the divine because it is within every one of us. Yes. We're made of it. We're created from it. We're created from the same material that the stars and the planets are made of. We are that. And within that context of that divine experience is love and wisdom and peace and light. And our birthright is to have that within. The thing is, there are they're called cloaks. They're cloaked over this divine spark. And we have to understand how we're deluded into not seeing them.
Okay.
So step by step, we have to learn how to take the cloaks off and bring the love back. That's here, that's always here.
Yes.
But take off the obstructions to it.
Okay.
Because that's one of the purposes of our lives,
Yes.
is to remember. I have a book that I wrote called Healing is Remembering Who You Are,
Yes.
which means remember that you're loved. Remember that you have a bunch of it inside. You have the light inside, and you have the wisdom inside, and let's meditate and open it up.
Okay.
Let's do things to open this up in ourselves, because the salvation of the world is at stake because of it.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. So how do we access this self-love? How do we access the person who we were, but we have forgotten?
Well, there's lots of different ways. And one, I talked about meditation.
Yes.
And I'm a big meditator. It's for me, it has just saved my life, meditation and yoga.
Uh-huh.
Because I come from a place of having been very deeply stressed.
Okay.
And I found meditation, I found yoga to help me to, first of all, just relax.
Okay.
And in that space of relaxation, I could have greater access to what's inside. So if I'm going and trying to eliminate this stress, especially through external means, like I tried every kind of aspirin I could think of. I was a high school teacher in the 60s.
Okay.
And I tried barbiturates. I tried, all these things to help myself relax. But then when I went to a yoga class and did a relaxation, I just said, this is it. This is what I'm looking for. Oh, I could sigh, relief, because I knew that the treasure was here and I was right there with it, and I could uncover it step by step. And of course, there's so many challenges.
Yes.
There's things happen in life, and things happen to affect your self-esteem. Well, I didn't do that right, or I don't do that as well as my friend, or I really messed that up, and therefore I must be a mess.
Yes.
We tell ourselves things like that all the time, and then therefore we don't have the love and we don't have the greatness inside. But we have to just keep on popping up from those, those temporary falls, and keep coming back and remembering, okay, you've got it inside, relax now and find it again. Of course, there are also things that we can do, like clues or cues to remember.
Yes.
I use the thumb and the index finger. This is called an anchor.
Okay.
Anchor in, well, this is actually called a mudra.
Okay.
And we can anchor in certain states of being.
Yes.
Like if I come into a state of love,
yes,
and then I tell myself, okay, I'm going to find a word or a phrase that symbolizes that.
yes,
Like, I am the power of healing, and I'm healing myself now. Okay, that always has a lot of meaning to me.
yes.
And it also has love in it, because the power of healing is healing love and wisdom and light and all the great things. And say, okay, I'm going to anchor it, which means press save. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to press save on that.
Can I just get you to show your hand up a little bit more?
Yes, and this is actually a mudra, and in yoga you see the great ones doing this.
Yes.
And this is also the okay sign.
Okay.
That it's all okay.
Yes.
But it's a very great symbol, because it's the divine love and the worldly love coming together as one.
Got it.
So if I remember, when I do this, I can remember the love inside myself and giving myself something to remember it through.
Got it.
And this is it, neuro-linguistic program, which I'm not a practitioner of, but I know some of the techniques.
Yes.
it uses anchors, and what mean is throw an anchor down on a boat and remember something.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you use it in your life, you can call it a trigger. You trigger the memory.
Yes.
Okay, Tony Robbins has used this quite a bit.
Okay.
Remember, he might touch the shoulder. Remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that whenever you touch your own shoulder,
Yes.
you can let your shoulders relax.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an after this, therefore, let this be a trigger for you to remember.
Mm-hmm.
So remembering is a job that we have, and there are other ways to do it. You know, taking care of yourself is a really good way to remember, because then you clear yourself out.
Mm-hmm.
Clear out your mind, you clear out your body, you clear yourself out of a lot of neurotic things and habits and things that are in your way. So many of us have all these habits
Yes.
that are in the way. I used to be a sugarholic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not any longer. I don't eat any sugar at all because I haven't wanted to. And I've done a lot of studying about it, and it's not good for you. So I've worked on it for a long time, of being an ex-sugarholic.
Yes.
And I have found lots of delicious things that are good for me that I can eat. So when I eat things that are good for myself,
Yes.
it's easier for me to be in a good state of being, a good state of mind.
Yes.
So all these things are ways. There are other ways too of remembering to be compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
Compassionate for yourself, you know, because you're a human being, and you work hard at it. You know, it's not an easy job to be a human being, and just to have care and compassion and not put yourself down all the time.
Yes.
And say to yourself, I love myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am a part of the divine universe. I love myself. I am working hard on this because I have spirit within me. I love myself. And that love I have for myself spreads out into the world, into the rest of the universe, and helps other people lift themselves up too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I would love for the listeners to be able to understand, I guess, maybe perhaps at a more sort of deeper level or more practical level, what this anchor is really all about. And in your, excuse me, and I just would really love to get for them to get that, you know, these kinds of anchors happen naturally in our lives anyways. You know, there's, you know, perhaps a smell that takes us back to a time in our childhood. There is, you know, a certain touch that can be very relaxing, perhaps a touch that's not so relaxing. Those are all anchors, right? And so what you're talking about here is to now consciously create those anchors.
Absolutely, absolutely. So see if there are words or phrases that can symbolize the
Mm-hmm.
good state,
Yeah.
the healed state, the healing state, the state of love,
Mm-hmm.
the state of peace. See if there's a word or phrase that can come up and symbolize that.
Yes.
And then that will be your word or phrase, and you anchor that in.
Yes.
And then whenever you need it, then you can have it. Now, one thing that I do, I'm a hypnotherapist, and one of the things that I do is I can do some demonstrations. So I take people back to a happy day in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's a time in their childhood when they were with a lot of people that they loved and cared about. And they were, let's say, in the water in the summer, and the family was all in this beautiful pond, and they were so happy. And then I say, okay, can you take that feeling and bring it through your entire body
Mm-hmm.
and let it reverberate throughout your being?
Mm-hmm.
And then find a word or a phrase that can symbolize that. And even just the word love can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Or I am love.
Mm-hmm.
Or I am the power of healing and I am love. Or something like that that has meaning for you.
Yes.
And then you can have it to use. It's like getting a savings account of tender loving care,
Yes.
you know, inside yourself.
Yes. Can I ask you to perhaps demystify hypnotherapy a little bit for those that don't really know what hypnotherapy is about, other than perhaps what we have seen on TV, or, you know, if we've gone to a show?
Right. Well, what you see on TV, that's stage hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a different breed from therapeutic hypnosis. Because stage hypnosis, well, some of the people who do it are very skilled. at helping people get in deep, relaxed states. But they don't do the therapeutic work on the stage. They might do it, you know. For example, there's this one woman. Her name was, what was her name? I know it very well. Anyway, it'll come back to me. She was a stage hypnotist, and she liked to play. Yes. She had a lot of fun with it. You know, she would be in Las Vegas, and she'd wear a boa, you know, around her, feather boa, and she'd say, Pat Collins. Pat Collins, right? And it's the hip hypnotist, she called herself. And she would say, who wants to come on up here and go to sleep with me? She liked to be kind of, you know, bawdy and funny. Yes. But on the side, she would help children who had cancer. And she would go and work with them all the time, because it's a whole different kind of work. It isn't for entertainment, it's for healing. Yes. So the kind of hypnosis that I'm talking about is therapeutic hypnosis. And hypnosis is relaxation. That's all it is. You know, it's going into, it's being able to relax in a very wonderful way. Yes. Everyone feels it from time to time. Like, let's say you're dancing and you're not experiencing any strife. You're just dancing and you're in the flow. And you just, it's what you love, and you're not even thinking, you're right there with it, you're just in that flow. That's a kind of hypnosis. Yes. Or if you're sitting by a fire and the fire is relaxing you, and the thoughts go out of your mind. Yes. That's similar. Yes. To hypnosis. And hypnosis and meditation are really the same state with different activities, because with hypnosis, there's a lot of activity going on. There's someone helping to release things and transform things. But in meditation, it's mainly being quiet or quieting the mind. But it's similar states of relaxation. Got it. So the great thing about a state of relaxation is that when you relax, the mind is very quiet and you can see deeply down inside. It's like there's a pond. You throw a stone in the pond and there's all these rings, then you can't see down below. You can't see the bottom of the pond. But if the pond is really still, you can see below. And by the way, that is actually an image from an ancient Hindu book, you know, about meditation and about relaxation. It's the truth. It's you just clear your mind enough to go deeply inside. So what's in there? Treasures. There's the subconscious mind and there's the superconscious mind, and there's other levels of mind too, but these are some of the main ones. The subconscious mind it's like a file system. Yes. Of everything that's ever happened to you. Yes. It's really like a search engine. It is a search engine. Yes. Put it on search and you can find out information. Yes. You can find out, well, what happened to you when you were 7 that started that pattern? Yes. Okay. And it's all in there. You that's your search term. It brings up the information. Okay. And you might see it when your eyes are closed, or you might feel it. Not everybody can see it. It has not everyone's visual. Or you can just think about it and it's there. That when you relax, there's not only the subconscious mind, but there's the superconscious mind. The superconscious mind is the higher self. Yes. And that is what I've been talking about, the healing self that has in it light. There's the healing light, love that's divine and human love, wisdom. I work a lot with it. I ask people, what would your wise mind tell you about that? And they come up with these beautiful understandings of their problems, that they look at it from another perspective. When you get into the higher self, you step away. Yes. And you can see something that you hadn't seen before. And it's very healing and it's very profound. Like, I needed that in order to go to the next step in my life. I needed to fail temporarily because that wasn't the right route for me. Something else was waiting for me and I needed to not have that work. But in your ordinary state, you don't see that. You're just into the suffering. Yes. That's why getting into the higher mind, the superconscious mind, can help you with suffering.
Okay. Because actually, what was on the tip of my tongue as you were
Yeah.
talking is that, historically, our culture, our society has really pushed us to run from the things that, are beneath the surface of the pond, and to busy ourselves or to self-medicate or, do whatever it is because we are fearing what is actually underneath the surface of that pond.
Right.
So what you're saying is that using the superconscious in conjunction with the unconscious or the subconscious mind allows us to go there and see it as treasures rather than seeing it as something like a monster.
Exactly. It's, you go to the place where the wild things are
Yes,
and you say, I'm not afraid of you.
yes,
I'm watching you from another state,
yes,
a witness state.
yes,
I'm looking at you.
yes.
There's a magic in the witness state.
Okay.
It has healing power. Once you look at something in the eye, you
Yeah.
look at one of those wild things and you say, I'm not afraid of you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here. I'm not afraid of you anymore. I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is a healing happens.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever, if you ever had a hurt in your physical body, if you ever said, I'm going to pay attention to it instead of run around and do this and that, I'm just going to pay attention to it. What happens is that it changes.
Mm-hmm.
You could do some experiments with it. If you hurt somewhere,
Yes.
just close your eyes and say, okay, I'm paying attention to you now. I notice that such and such is happening and such is happening. I feel it. I understand it. I think what I'm going to do is breathe into it. And as I do breathe into it, it seems to disperse. Something's happening with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's shifting, it's changing. And that makes it very different.
Mm-hmm. Less fearful.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The pain goes away.
Mm-hmm.
The pain goes away, or it transforms, it transmutes its state.
Yes.
Magic can happen.
Yes. And I think that what resonates for me is that we really do have to create, I don't know,
We have what, I'm sorry?
we really have to create these sacred moments or times for ourselves to be able
Right.
to be still enough, to be able to be quiet enough, to really get those treasures, those
Right.
I don't know, defining moments where we hear something very soothing or we hear something very inspiring within us.
We have to be quiet enough to
Yes,
hear it.
yes, okay,
To quiet our everyday mind, which is chattering. That's the nature of it. That's what it does.
yes,
Chatters.
yes,
It's like a monkey in a tree going from branch to branch. But, you can be the witness.
yes,
I'm watching the monkey. I'm watching the chatter. I'm watching the suffering. I'm watching the pain. And in that is the healing.
yes. It's really getting to know that, we won't fall apart.
Right.
Right. I mean, we're very resilient, very resourceful beings, right?
Right.
And with every challenge that we have had in our lives and every challenge that, is to come yet, we will find the resources to be able to get through that.
Right. And those wild things
Yes.
are just images.
Yeah.
On our consciousness, they're not even wild. They're just toys,
Yes.
you know?
Okay. You wrote an article that I had seen on your website that is called "What is the Real Cause of Our Problems?" Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a big issue
Yes.
because a lot of people in the field of hypnosis,
Yes.
they like to say, I'm going to the cause of your problem. So they go to a time in your life when something stressful happened. Well, let's say that that's a cause. It's not the cause. It's
Mm-hmm.
something that happened, but who knows how far back you need to go
Mm-hmm.
to get to the first cause. I mean, I personally believe in past lives. I know that some people do and some people don't, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But you can go to a past life and see that when you were a knight, somehow someone put a spear through your armor, and you have that hurt in your arm that you had. That's the cause of the hurt in your arm now. I mean, that's possible, but there's something even deeper.
Yes.
even deeper than that. And it's that you're not connected with your spirit. You're not connected with your soul or with God. And if anyone doesn't resonate with that word, just change it into something else.
Yes.
When you're connected, you know, you see the cause. I have a problem because I'm not connected with the truth at this moment. I'm having these challenges. I'm not understanding that they're here for my well-being. Excuse me, I'll take a sip of tea.
Sure.
I'm not understanding that everything is happening for my benefit.
Okay.
I'm not understanding that it's all temporary and it's all illusion. You know, the great beings say that everything is illusion. They say that everything that we see in the physical plane is not real.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard for us to understand that because it's so real, you know, to us.
Yes.
But the great ones who have reached highest stages of life, they say there's something that's more real than what you see. It's a state where there is total love, total peace, total truth, you know, and when you get to that, then the bad stuff dissolves. So how do you get to that? You meditate. you meditate, you work on your issues.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you know, do whatever you can to perfect your being. That's why we're here. To understand these truths.
Yes.
It's,
To know who we are, really.
to understand what's real.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so could you perhaps give an example of what, you know, the sages would say is real?
The stages of what? Finding what's real?
You know, what the sages, what the
What the sages say is real.
Yes.
They say that there is another reality. That's a higher reality, that they see what we're going through as a struggle of light and dark.
Okay.
Okay. And in that struggle of darkness and light, it's like a war going on. It's a battlefield. And there's a lot of metaphors about the battlefield, a lot of different things that are written about, you know, the Hindu has a Mahabharata, it's a struggle on the battlefield of life between different gods and goddesses. That is the illusion. And they say, and it isn't like that in truth. It isn't like that. What it's like is peace. It's bliss.
Yes.
When you, I mean, I'm not myself an enlightened being. I have times of enlightenment.
Yes.
And I'm not sitting at the pinnacle that I can say, this is my experience of everything being bliss.
Yes.
But I work on it. You know, I say, if I've
Experienced it.
What's that?
You have experienced it.
I've experienced it. Yeah, I've studied with a lot of different teachers and masters from India and Tibet.
Yes.
I've been meditating for 45 years. I should be enlightened by now. That's a big should. But you know, I sometimes still believe some of the things on the earth plane that they're real. And then I go into suffering myself. And but what I do then is I sit with myself and I meditate, and I do some special practices you know, that I like to do that are hypnotherapeutic and healing. And so I bring myself back. And what I like to work with is the wise mind. So I say to myself, what would my wise mind tell me about this? It would say, don't worry, dear one. It isn't the real truth. The real truth is that you are becoming greater and greater each day. The real truth is that this particular challenge means nothing to you in the long run, except that you're learning something powerful. But you can come out of your distress right now. I actually work with myself like this every day.
Okay.
I do, because I work with love. I bring love to the different parts of myself, like a part of myself that's stranded inside, that needed love from childhood, like say the part of my, well, I have an example. I used to have terrible stage fright.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into self-hypnosis, and I saw myself at age 10,
Okay.
and I saw myself at a piano recital, and I was making a lot of mistakes on the piano. And there was a little girl who was dancing, she was dancing. It was the Hungarian dance number 5. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. And I was making all these mistakes, and she was making faces, and everybody was laughing.
Uh-huh.
And I heard my dad laughing, and that was so humiliating. And I was just humiliated. And I said, oh, so that's the reason. Let's say that's one of the reasons. And then I had the golden Buddha come to me and
Uh-huh.
start laughing and laughing. He's the laughing Buddha.
Uh-huh.
And he laughed and laughed, and he said, so what? So what? So what? And I said, right. So what? This doesn't matter.
Yes.
And then I was able to laugh.
Yes.
And so then I got one of these things for myself,
Mm-hmm.
which was, excuse me, for when I would be doing public speaking. And now I don't have to do it anymore. But I'd feel an energy come down through the top of my head,
Yeah. Yeah.
coming down into me. And a great being would be here and said, it's okay, I'm going to speak through you.
Mm-hmm.
And then do this and say, all systems go. Okay. So those are my words.
Yes.
And that took me out of stage fright.
Lovely.
So I got truth,
Yes.
and I got the anchor and the trigger.
Yes.
And I got the love and the laughter, and I was able to move myself out
Yes.
of that suffering.
Yes.
Because it was terrible every time I would speak. And I used to go on the radio and everything, but I was terrified.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd feel it in my stomach, but it doesn't happen anymore. So thank you, God. There's healing. That's, to me, what healing is about.
Yes.
Getting in touch with the truth, with the love, with the peace, with the light. But first, exploring and experiencing the nature of what you're going through, the nature of the suffering. Just experience it, feel it,
Yes.
sense it,
Yes.
see it in your mind's eye, understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I work with breathing, breathe into it. And then I work with the wise mind or the love, and hug those parts of yourself, or ask the wise mind, or bring the light, bring the healing light to those different aspects and parts of yourself.
Yes.
So that's, that's what healing is to me. Experience the problem, release it, and transform it. And transform it means bring it to the healed state. And that's the higher state of being.
Yeah. And I think that, you that was an excellent example. It was a very clear example of how to do that. It's almost like as if we, through our own suffering, our accumulation of things that have happened to us in life, and then, what we've made it mean and the stories that we've created about it have had us lose perspective. And when you're talking about this Buddha who comes down laughing and saying, so what? He's giving you that perspective that
That's it.
This is just a small piece, right?
The operative word is perspective.
Yes.
And I see it sometimes as standing on top of a mountain, looking down. And when you're looking down, you can see the whole thing. When you're up close, you only see a little part of it. It's like when you're trying to hang a picture.
Yes.
And you can't tell if it's straight or not because you're too close to it.
Exactly.
So you stand back and say,
yes.
Okay, I see how that needs to go.
Yes.
So stand back in your consciousness and stand on that mountaintop.
Yes.
And ask your wise mind, tell me, how can I see this so that I understand it better?
Yes. Awesome. Awesome. I like that. Okay. Can I just ask you, what has informed you in your work? So way back when you decided that you were going to be on this mission and have this purpose to help people transform themselves and to come into their power, what was it that had you go on that mission?
Well, as I told you at the beginning, I was a high school teacher. I used to teach English.
Okay. Yes.
And in the late 60s, the students were rioting in the schools.
Okay.
And I would be courageous and help break up some of the fights, but inside I was totally stressed. I was a basket case.
Okay.
And then someone suggested that I go to a yoga class. And
Okay.
as I said, I went to this yoga class and we did a relaxation process.
Uh-huh.
And at the end of the relaxation, you know, well, during the relaxation, we relax all the different parts of our body, which I understand now is a hypnosis technique called progressive relaxation. But they do that in yoga to relax the different parts of the body. And I said, this is what I want. This is it. And so I started on a path of meditation and yoga. And I taught yoga, I taught meditation. Then in 1971, I took the first S training with Werner Erhard. I don't know if you've ever heard about it.
Landmark. Yes.
Yeah, that was the first one that he ever gave, and I took it from him 3 times after that, which used the relaxation processes and worked on things in those states of relaxation. And I realized that I had familiarity with this. I knew this. And I started doing this kind of work. I called it deep inner healing. And in the 70s, I would do this. I taught classes in visualization healing and deep healing. I had no idea it could be called hypnotherapy or hypnosis until 1987. And then I found out I could name all this with a different name. I'd get a certificate in it. And I learned how to do other things like help people with their habits, help them stop smoking, not eat sugar, you know, and overcome their fears. And I realized that it had a lot of applications, this state of relaxation.
Yes.
But it moved me to be able to relax like that. And then to find the healing states, because I needed it so badly. I was so stressed out.
Yes.
And it helped me so much. And then when I was in the course with Werner, we did work on different aspects of our lives. For example, I worked on my relationship with my parents. And I never understood until that time that my parents were separate beings. They were my parents. But when I did the special relaxation process, I saw them on the wheel of life, and they were spinning around on the wheel of karma. My dad had one and my mom had one. And I said, wow, they came here to work out their karma, just like everybody else. They just happened to be my mom and my dad. I incarnated here with them to work things out. They're the people that would help me on my path, even though they didn't have the same belief systems or activities at all. They still were stepping stones, but they weren't mom and dad. They were, this is my mom, this is my dad, just, you know. And I understood that. Yes. When I did this relaxation, I was able to get perspective and see them as beings. Yes. It changed everything for me.
Yes.
It really did. It changed everything. I had compassion for them.
Yes.
You know, they're here working things out and making a mess of some things and doing great in some things.
Yes.
Trying hard and sometimes just blindly going into things. I said, wow.
Yes.
They deserve my compassion, you know.
And I think that, you know, I mean, in relationships, we tend to see people for who they are for us, right? So we may,
I'm sorry?
We tend to see people for who they are for us.
Yes.
We don't always get to see who they are for others. So your mom and your dad were daughters, were brothers or sisters, or, you know, employees, or whoever they were.
Right.
And, you know, it's a real sort of growing stage when we start to realize that that person is so many other people and that they are separate from us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And so, you know, it's easier to not be so totally attached.
Yes.
To things, and you can kind of move into a state of being just less attached. To some people that's a real advantage, being less attached. Some people like being attached. So if you like being attached, that's fine. But if you want to have a little more detachment, then you can see things from another perspective. Yes. And it really helps.
Yes. Okay. You developed your own method of healing. It's called the transformation healing method. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yes. Yes. Okay. I was mentioning it before. It has certain stages of experience, release,
Yes.
transform,
Okay.
which means to fully see what's going on in your current reality system, in your body, your mind, your spirit. Then release it. I have a collection of wonderful release techniques.
Okay.
Okay. And then transform it and be able to transform it into love, peace, truth, wisdom, bliss, and all these great experiences.
Yes.
But I also have a system of working with this in hypnosis. First, I do an interview. Then I do the preliminary techniques, which are also the release techniques.
Okay.
Then I do a special kind of induction. Induction means inducing hypnosis. And then I do the hypnosis, which means I help people relax, go inside, and sometimes, excuse me, sometimes I talk with them while they're in hypnosis and find out things and help them to heal. And then the last part, I make them a recording, a 15-minute recording that has relaxation and positive statements on it that I send to them as an MP3, and they listen to it every day. So it's a whole healing system.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Can you talk to the listeners a little bit about your gift that you're offering today?
Now, what is it? I might remember. I think I wrote this down. Let's see. Oh, a free ebook about your mind. Is that what we have here? Oh, yeah. This is really interesting. It's got a lot of information about how to work with your mind, and it's an ebook. And I have written down. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes here, but
that's okay. Please do. No.
So learn where the negative patterns of your mind come from. How to transform your problems into happiness.
Nice.
How to transform anger, fear, brain chemistry.
Right.
You learn specific techniques, receive powerful tools to transform the process of your thinking. This is so important, to work with your thinking.
Yes, for sure.
You know, a lot of people call it stinking thinking. And so many of us have stinking thinking. We work with it all the time.
Yes.
You know, and a lot of people don't know how to work with it. They just stay in the cesspool of old thoughts. And it really is a cesspool because it drags us down. I'm no good and I'll never be any good. And this doesn't look right and that doesn't feel right. And, oh, I did that wrong. And, oh, that other person is a jerk, and et cetera, et cetera. And you can see it on Facebook. It's everybody's thoughts, and some of it's just lovely. Some of it's thinking.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you're a person who wants to work with your mind, and you want to transform some of the everyday thoughts, there are ways to do it. And so this book will help. It's called, oh, did this thing fall down here?
I don't know. It looked like the camera was actually zooming in.
Okay, I'm going to push that. Oh, well.
Edited it falling on you. So.
The backdrop. I had to put that up. I'm working on a lot of things back of there.
Your research is back there.
But anyway, we have patterns of mind. And as I said, I believe in past lives, and I believe some of these patterns we came in with.
Yes.
Some of us have patterns of self-destruction or destruction of others. Some have patterns that, you know, like Donald Trump, I'm greater than everybody, you know, or some have, I'm not as good as anybody. Some have patterns like that. Exactly. And it's possible to work on those things and to understand they're just patterns of the mind. They're not necessarily true, you know, so you can work on them. Yes. I think it's really important. And one of the things I like to do when some of those thoughts come up, I say no.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
And then I have something else that I bring in and say, no, I'm healing myself now. No, I am the power of healing. And I'm healing myself now. So you can take those thoughts, say no. Just no, and you don't have to say shut up or anything like that unless you want to. I mean, they sometimes are warranted, but but just to say, you know, I'm not gonna get myself involved in that right now. I'm not going to use that as my next step. It's just stinking thinking. Do you remember ever watch Saturday Night Live? Did you ever watch it?
Oh,
Okay. Remember Stuart Smalley was played by Al Franken, and he was this character. He had this show, and he kind of had the show within the show, and he would say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and
I think so.
doggone it, people like me. That was his affirmation. And then something would happen, like Michael Jordan came on, and Stuart Smalley said to him, Michael, now, don't you remember when you had difficulties in your childhood, all the things that you did? And Michael said, no, I didn't have those. No. And Stuart said, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I'm 20 pounds overweight, and I'm never going to amount to anything. And they're going to cancel my show. Nope. I'm sorry. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. So I mean, he had his affirmation. He worked, and of course that was a parody of it.
Yes.
But let's say, that stuff still works.
For sure it does.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, after we've, created those scenes and those moments where we have felt happy, where we have felt love, or have felt peace, and use them as anchors, definitely we can go to those places when we start to really beat ourselves up or start to think stinkingly.
Right.
Right. And again, I mean, I love that, I think that this whole interview is really just about perspective.
Absolutely.
And when we have perspective, we can see things from different angles and get more information to create a whole new story about ourselves and our lives that really work for us and work for, obviously, it'll filter through to the people around us and the world around us, right?
Right. Like Shakespeare said it too, there's a lot more in heaven and earth than you've dreamed about in your philosophy. I guess he said Horatio. And there's a lot of other realities that you don't know about.
Absolutely.
So just know you can expand your whole way of being, and a whole different place in your life.
Yes. There's this whole concept of what we don't know that we don't know. And I think that that's the biggest area in our lives, really.
Right.
Okay.
We don't know that we don't know. That's right.
Yes. That was part of Landmark Est.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I just want to say thank you so much, Marilyn. You're a very, very lovely person.
Thank you.
It's very, very enjoyable last, I guess, 40 minutes or so. Thank you for your wisdom, for your knowledge, your experience, and your very, very kind nature.
Thank you. And thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'm grateful to be here. I enjoyed your questions. I enjoyed you. You're very lovely yourself. Thanks.
Marilyn.